My name is Evelyn Walsh, and I am 33 years old. 2 weeks ago, my mother rang my doorbell for the first time in 9 years. She stood on my porch in a beige cardigan, clutching a carry-on suitcase in one hand and a folded piece of paper in the other. That paper was not an apology. It was a list, handwritten, blue ink, bullet points. Every single bullet had a dollar sign next to it. The total? $925,000. She didn't say she was sorry. She didn't ask about her grandchildren. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "We need to talk about the family's future." But here's what my mother didn't know. For 9 years, I'd been keeping a list of my own. Every birthday card she returned unopened. Every voicemail she deleted without listening. Every text my sister sent about me behind my back. 29 items, labeled, dated, filed in a navy blue binder that sat in the bottom drawer of my desk. She brought a list of what she wanted. I had a list of what she did. Now, before I go any further, if you're new here, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe. It genuinely helps more than you know. And while you're at it, drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every single one. All right, let's get into it. Let me take you back to the summer I turned 24. The summer my family looked me in the eye and told me I was no longer one of them. My hometown was Sutton Creek, Georgia. Population 2,000 and change. One Baptist church on Main Street, one barbershop where old men argued about football, one diner called Earl's where every booth smelled like black coffee and bacon grease no matter what time you walked in. That town was my entire world until I turned 18. My father, Frank Walsh, worked the floor at the lumber mill on County Road 12 for 31 years. Same shift, same steel-coat boots, same quiet nod when he walked through the door at 5:42 every evening. He was a man of few words, but his silence was comfortable. Until it wasn't. My mother, Loretta Walsh, she ran our household and the church women's committee with the same iron precision. She organized the Easter brunch. She ran the prayer chain. She decided who brought what to every potluck, and nobody argued with Loretta, least of all me. Then there was my sister, Savannah, 4 years younger and everything I was not. Loud, magnetic, the kind of girl who got voted homecoming queen and acted surprised about it. Mom called her my blessing. Dad called her sunshine. I was the quiet one, the one who did the dishes without being asked, who aced every math test, who never got a party thrown for her, not once. And I don't say that with bitterness. I say it so you understand the math. In the Walsh household, love was a fixed budget, and Savannah was the line item that always got funded first. When I was 18, I earned a full academic scholarship to the University of Georgia, first Walsh to ever go to college. Mom packed my suitcase herself. She tucked a card inside, the kind with watercolor flowers on the front and her handwriting on the back. 4 words. Come home soon. You belong here. I kept that card for 15 years. It's still in my desk drawer, right next to the navy binder. That card was the last kind thing she ever wrote to me. I met a man named Julian Cross in my advanced statistics course, spring semester of junior year. He sat 2 rows ahead of me, solving regression problems like he was reading the morning paper. Calm, methodical, never rushed. Engineering major, computer science minor. Partial scholarship from Atlanta. His mother, Cora, was a retired school librarian who raised him alone after his father walked out when Julian was 4 years old. She worked double shifts at a textile plant until Julian turned 16. Then she worked one job and volunteered at 3 different community centers just to stay busy. That woman had more heart than anyone I'd ever met. Julian was biracial. He had his mother's deep brown eyes and his father's sharp jawline. And he had this way of listening, really listening, that made you feel like every word you said mattered. Our first date was at a taco truck on Baxter Street. He paid with crumpled dollar bills. I covered the tip with quarters. We split a horchata and talked until the truck shut off its generator. He told me he wanted to build something that actually solved a real problem. I told him I wanted a career where the numbers actually meant something. He smiled and said, "Then I'd say we're in the right field." We dated for 3 years before he proposed. 3 quiet, steady, beautiful years. He met my parents exactly twice. The first time, Mom smiled too wide and called him Justin instead of Julian. The second time, she got his name right, but never once looked him in the eye. Both times, Dad shook his hand like he was gripping a dead fish and said almost nothing. I told myself it was just nerves, small-town people. They just needed time to adjust. Savannah was the honest one. At Thanksgiving dinner, she leaned over and whispered, "He's nice and all, but Mom is never going to be okay with this. You know that, right?" I didn't know that. Not yet. Julian proposed on a Tuesday. No ring at first, just a conversation at our tiny kitchen table in our apartment off campus. He took my hands and said, "I want to build a life with you. I want to build something real. Will you let me?" I said yes before he even finished the sentence. That night, I called home. Mom answered on the third ring. I told her the news. The line went dead silent for 7 full seconds. I counted. When she finally spoke, her voice was ice. "You need to think long and hard about what this means for this family, Evelyn. Not congratulations, not tell me about the ring, a warning." Dad got on the extension. He cleared his throat twice and said absolutely nothing. That silence told me everything. 2 days later, Savannah texted, "Mom hasn't stopped crying since you called. Are you happy now?" I was, actually, for the first time in years, but I didn't dignify that with a response. 2 weeks after the phone call, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a text. A physical letter, handwritten in Loretta Walsh's perfect cursive on cream-colored stationery. 4 paragraphs. The last one was burned into my memory forever. "If you go through with this, you are choosing him over your family. We cannot support this. We will not attend. And if you walk down that aisle, do not expect to walk back through our door. He is not one of us, Evelyn. He never will be." That was the line. She drew it in blue ink on expensive stationery, and she expected me to stand on her side of it. I read that letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, placed it in a manila folder, and stored it away. I didn't know why I kept it. Something deep inside me, the part that reconciles bank statements and files receipts, whispered, "Hold on to this." So I held on. Julian and I got married at the Clark County Courthouse on a Saturday in June. 12 guests, all friends, all Julian's side. His mother, Cora, drove in from Atlanta with a garment bag and a Tupperware container of her famous pound cake. She pinned a silk flower to my dress, cupped my face in both hands, and said, "Welcome to the family, baby girl." No father walked me down the aisle. There was no aisle. There was a fluorescent-lit hallway and a judge who mispronounced both our names, and a reception at a Vietnamese restaurant where we pushed 4 tables together, and Julian's college roommate gave a toast so funny Cora laughed water through her nose. My dress cost $160 from a consignment shop downtown. White, simple. It fit like it was made for me. Julian wore a navy suit he found on clearance at the mall. We looked like 2 people who had just done the most important thing of our lives on a shoestring budget. Because we had. That night, back in our apartment, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my bouquet. Grocery store roses, $6. And my hands shook. Not from doubt, from grief. I had just gotten married, and the 2 people who raised me didn't care enough to witness it. 1 week later, I mailed a card to Sutton Creek. Inside was our wedding photo. Julian and me on the courthouse steps, grinning like fools. I wrote, "We're happy. I hope someday you can be happy for us too." The card came back 11 days later, stamped in red ink, "Return to sender." I stared at that stamp for a very long time. Then I opened the manila folder, slipped the card inside, and wrote in red pen, "Item 2, wedding photo returned." That was the moment the binder was born. Year 1 was brutal. I called Mom 4 times, voicemail every single time. I left messages that were short, careful, measured. The kind where you weigh every syllable because you know it might be the last one she ever hears. "Hey Mom, just calling to check in. We're doing great. Julian got a job at a software firm downtown. I'm studying for the CPA exam. I miss you. Call me back whenever you're ready." She never called. I sent a birthday card, a Father's Day card, a Christmas card. All three came back with that same red stamp. Dad sent exactly one text message. February. 4 words. Your mother needs time. That was it. No follow-up, no second message. Those 4 words sat in my phone like a splinter I couldn't dig out. That spring, Savannah posted a family photo on Facebook. Mom, Dad, Savannah, her boyfriend at the time, all smiling around the dinner table. Caption, Sunday supper with my people. I wasn't in the photo. I had never been invited. I took a screenshot. Not to torture myself. I printed it because I had started doing something I couldn't fully explain. Filing things. Every returned card, every unanswered call log, every scrap of evidence that my family had decided I simply didn't exist anymore. By March, the manila folder was overflowing, so I transferred everything into a binder. Navy blue, 3-ring, tabbed dividers. He is not one of us. Her voice echoed in my head at the strangest moments, in the cereal aisle at Kroger, in the dentist chair, at 2 a.m. when Julian was asleep and the apartment was dark and still. I wanted the words to stop hurting. They didn't stop, but they did get quieter, and the binder kept getting thicker. By year 2, Julian quit his job, but he wasn't being reckless. He had a plan. For 6 months, he'd been building a prototype on nights and weekends, a compliance platform for small businesses, software that made SEC filings and financial audits manageable for companies that couldn't afford a legal team. He understood the code, I understood the books. Together, we saw a problem nobody else wanted to solve, making regulatory paperwork accessible for companies with fewer than 50 employees. He set up a desk in our garage, 2 monitors, a space heater, a whiteboard he found at Goodwill for $12. I'd come home from my analyst job every evening, heat up leftover soup, and sit beside him reviewing financial models until midnight. I built the pricing architecture, I wrote the compliance checklists, I tested every module against real SEC guidelines. Julian engineered the engine, I designed the dashboard. Neither of us slept enough, but we were building something. Regulacor launched 7 months later with 4 paying customers and a free trial that crashed twice on the first day. I also did something else that year. I upgraded the binder. Dividers for each year. Red pen labels on every item. Tab 1, year 1. 7 items. I wasn't building a legal case. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was doing what I'd always done, keeping records. Because I was a financial analyst, and financial analysts do not throw away documentation, ever. But I did start numbering the items, and I did start dating each one, because numbers don't lie, and neither would I. The twins arrived on a Wednesday morning in November, 6 pounds each, identical dark curls. Lila screamed for 4 hours straight. Jackson slept through the entire thing. Julian cried. I'd never seen that man cry before. He stood by the hospital window, holding Lila in his left arm and Jackson in his right, and said, "They're going to know they're loved every single day. I swear it." Cora arrived the next morning. She stayed 2 weeks. She cooked, she cleaned, she rocked Jackson at 3 a.m. while I fed Lila. She brought a blanket she'd crocheted herself, yellow and white, impossibly soft, and a silver bracelet for each baby engraved with their birth dates. That was what a grandmother looked like. I had sent Loretta the ultrasound photos 5 months earlier, returned to sender. I sent birth announcements, 2 separate cards, 1 for each twin. Returned, returned, returned. Items 13, 14, and 15 were added to the binder. Savannah texted a mutual friend from high school. That friend screenshotted the message and sent it to me without a word. Savannah's text read, "Her kids don't have real grandparents. That's what she chose." I sat in the nursery with those words glowing on my screen for 11 minutes. Lila was asleep in her crib. Jackson was curled against my chest. And from the kitchen, I could hear Cora humming some old gospel tune while she washed bottles. My children had a grandmother. Her name was Cora Cross. She drove in from Atlanta every 6 weeks and never once missed a birthday. I printed the screenshot, filed it. Item 16, red pen, dated. Let me be absolutely clear about something. I didn't keep that binder out of spite. I didn't flip through it at night, nursing some revenge fantasy. Most weeks, I forgot it even existed. It sat in the bottom drawer of my desk, buried beneath tax folders and expired insurance policies, collecting dust. But every single time something arrived, a returned envelope, a forwarded screenshot, a voicemail transcript I saved because deleting it felt like erasing evidence, I filed it. Same process every time. Print, label, date. Red pen, tab. Julian asked me once, "Why do you keep all that?" I told him the truth. Because one day when the kids are old enough, they're going to ask why they don't have grandparents on my side, and I want them to have facts. Not my version, not her version, the receipts. He nodded. He understood receipts. He was an engineer. Engineers keep bill logs. By year 5, Regular Core had 15 employees. We had a real office with our company name on the door and a conference room with a whiteboard that was not from Goodwill. The company was growing, not fast, not flashy, but steady. The kind of growth that doesn't make headlines but pays salaries and keeps the lights on. Julian still wrote code every day. He refused to become the kind of CEO who stops building the product. I handled everything else. Cash flow, vendor contracts, quarterly projections. The company was his vision. The numbers were mine. We bought our first house that year, a craftsman bungalow in the historic district of Decatur, Georgia. 3 bedrooms, original hardwood floors, a backyard with a magnolia tree the twins immediately claimed as their secret fort. I remember signing the mortgage papers and thinking, this is ours. Nobody handed us this. We built it brick by brick. On a Tuesday night in October, I made the mistake of opening Facebook. Loretta had posted a family photo, some kind of pre-Thanksgiving dinner. New dining room set, Savannah and her husband, a baby in a high chair, Savannah's son, my nephew, I had never met him. The caption read, "My whole world." 3 people in that photo, a baby, a table, a family that did not include me or my children or the man I married. I closed the app, went to bed, didn't cry. I had stopped crying over Loretta Walsh around year 3. Some wounds don't heal, they just go numb. Savannah got married in year 6. I found out through Instagram. The photos were stunning. Whitechapel, the same Baptist church where I was baptized at 12 years old. 200 guests. Savannah in a cathedral-length veil. Mom in lavender. Dad in a new suit I'd never seen. The reception had a live band, a 5-tier cake, and a sparkler send-off straight out of a movie. They didn't invite me. They didn't even tell me. I found out 4 days after the fact when a high school acquaintance posted a group photo captioned, "Best wedding of the year." I zoomed in. My parents were in the second row, smiling, arms around each other. Dad looked thinner. Mom looked exactly the same. I stared at that photo for a long, long time. Not because I wanted that wedding. I had my wedding. 12 people, Vietnamese food, a $160 dress, and the finest man I have ever known standing beside me. I stared at that photo because they looked happy, and they looked happy without me. Year 7, Regular Core landed its Series B round, $12 million from a venture capital firm out of San Francisco. I'll never forget that phone call. Julian was at the stove making pancakes for the twins. He answered, listened, nodded once, hung up, and turned to me with this look of quiet disbelief. They said yes. I ran the numbers before the pancakes were finished. $12 million in funding, post-money valuation of $68 million. Julian and I still held 22%. We weren't rich, not yet, but the trajectory was pointing somewhere I had only ever modeled in spreadsheets. I left my analyst job that month and joined Regular Core full-time as CFO. My name went on the company paperwork right next to his. Partners in everything. The Series B announcement made a small splash. TechCrunch ran a brief write-up. A couple of fintech newsletters mentioned it. The kind of coverage industry insiders notice and everyone else scrolls past. But someone in Sutton Creek, Georgia did not scroll past. 2 weeks later, a friend from high school texted me. "Hey, this is random, but your mom was asking me about your husband's company at church on Sunday. She wanted to know what Series B meant. Thought you should know. I read that text 3 times. My mother hadn't spoken my name in 7 years. She didn't know what Series B meant, but she wanted to. The math was shifting, and Loretta Walsh was paying very close attention. That same year, I sent what I knew would be my final birthday card. 7 straight years, 7 returned cards. But this time, I took something extra inside. A photo of Leela and Jackson at their school's fall festival, matching flannel shirts, cheeks painted like tigers, Jackson missing his 2 front teeth, Leela grinning so wide her eyes nearly disappeared. On the back, I wrote, "They ask about you sometimes. I tell them you live far away." I sealed the envelope, mailed it, expected the usual red stamp within 11 days. It came back in 9, but something was different. The envelope had been opened. The flap was creased. The original glue had been sliced and resealed with a thin strip of clear tape. I held it up to the kitchen light. The card was inside, the photo was inside, but someone in that house had taken them out, looked at them, held my children's faces in their hands, and then carefully, deliberately put everything back and returned it. I sat at that kitchen table, turning the envelope over and over in my hands. I was almost certain Dad had opened it. He had looked at his grandchildren for the very first time, and then Mom had made him seal it back up and send it away. He wanted to keep it. She wouldn't let him. Item 23. Birthday card, year 7. Opened, resealed, photo viewed, still returned. I labeled it with a steadier hand than I expected, because I had suspected for years that Dad was never the architect of this silence. He was the enforcer. Mom was the architect, and the blueprint was brutally simple. If she couldn't control who I loved, she would erase me from the family entirely. Year 8. Regulacor exploded. 80 employees, offices in Atlanta and Austin, partnerships with 2 of the biggest accounting firms in the Southeast. Julian's face appeared on the cover of a regional business magazine under the headline, "The Quiet Disruptor." That same month, I noticed strange activity on my LinkedIn profile. Someone from Sutton Creek, Georgia had viewed my page 3 times in 1 week. No name, private browser, but the location was unmistakable. Then, Forbes released its annual Companies to Watch list. Regulacor made the cut, number 47 out of 50. Just 2 sentences, but it was Forbes. A few weeks later, Julian appeared as a guest on a fintech podcast. 45 minutes of technical discussion, compliance automation, API integrations, federal reporting standards. Not exactly viral material. But 3 days after it aired, my friend from Sutton Creek texted again. "Your mom told Linda at the salon she always knew Julian was smart." Direct quote. Linda said Loretta sounded proud. First time she's mentioned your name in years. Always knew Julian was smart? 7 years of deafening silence, and now suddenly she always knew? I didn't add that to the binder. It wasn't a document, it was hearsay. But I wrote it on a yellow sticky note and pressed it to the inside cover, because I wanted to remember the precise moment Loretta Walsh began rewriting history. She wasn't proud of Julian. She wasn't sorry. She was recalculating. The numbers were getting bigger, and my mother was an accountant of a very different kind. Then the group chat surfaced. My friend from Sutton Creek, Rachel, the one who kept me informed about small-town gossip, called me on a Monday evening. She sounded shaken. "Evelyn, Savannah accidentally added me to the family group chat. I think she meant to add someone else with a similar number. I was in the chat for 3 days before they realized and kicked me out. I took screenshots. She sent 7 of them. 3 days of unfiltered Walsh family conversation. I read them sitting in the parking lot of Jackson's soccer practice with the engine off. Savannah, his company was valued at $68 million last round. I've been tracking the funding documents. If they IPO, we're looking at $300 million minimum. Loretta, how do we approach this? She won't listen to me. Frank, maybe I should call first, feel her out. Loretta, no, I need to go in person with a plan, a real plan. Savannah, make a list, be specific about what we need. She's a numbers person. She'll respond to numbers. Loretta, how much should we ask for? Savannah, Start with the mortgage, then medical, then retirement, college fund for my son, monthly support. Layer it, make it look like family investment, not a request. Frank, this doesn't feel right. Loretta, Frank, she has more money than this entire town combined. She can afford to help her family. Frank didn't reply after that.
I sat in my car. The dashboard clock glowed 7:22 p.m. Through the windshield, I could see Jackson sprinting across the field chasing a soccer ball. My hands were shaking. Not from sadness, from clarity. 9 years of silence. 9 years of returned birthday cards and ignored grandchildren, and a cream-colored letter that said, "Do not walk back through our door." And now that the numbers had shifted, they were strategizing, coordinating, building a case. I drove home, printed the screenshots, filed them. Item 26, family group chat. Financial surveillance confirmed, hostile intent documented. I told Julian that night, after the kids were in bed. I handed him my phone and let him read the screenshots. He read them slowly, line by line, the way he reads code, searching for the flaw in the logic. When he finished, he set the phone on the counter and stared at the wall for a long moment. Then he looked at me and said, "What do you want to do?" Not, "Here's what we should do," not, "Let me handle this." He asked me, and then he stood beside me while I figured it out. The next morning, I called a family law attorney, not to file anything, not to sue. I just wanted to understand our legal position. Could Loretta make any claim to our assets, to the children? The attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Marino, walked me through it in 20 minutes. Loretta had zero legal standing. Our trusts were ironclad. Oregon law offered no grandparent visitation rights without a pre-existing relationship, and 9 years of meticulously documented estrangement made any claim legally laughable. I thanked her, hung up, went to work. But that same week, I drafted a letter, didn't send it, just wrote it handland at the kitchen table after midnight. In it, I listed every single item in the binder, every date, every returned card, every ignored call. 26 items. Dated, documented, battle ready. Year 9. The IPO discussions began in January. Investment bankers flew into Atlanta. 3 rounds of meetings in our conference room, the one with the whiteboard that was still technically the same one from Goodwill, though nobody needed to know that. They scrutinized our financials, our growth projections, our customer retention metrics. They used words like roadshow and pricing range and lockup period. Julian handled the product vision. I handled the numbers. Every slide, every projection, every risk disclosure. My signature was on every SEC filing before it left the building. CFO, co-founder, the person who certified that every decimal point was correct. The process consumed 7 months. 7 months of due diligence, legal review, investor roadshows. Julian barely slept. I barely ate. The twins started noticing. Jackson asked why Dad kept having conversations with his laptop during dinner. Leela drew a picture of me at my desk with a speech bubble that read, "One more email." In August, our attorney finalized the irrevocable trusts for Leela and Jackson. Funded, protected. Nobody, not Loretta, not Frank, not Savannah, not any future version of any Walsh who showed up with a list, could touch a single dollar. I signed the documents on a Tuesday afternoon in a high-rise conference room overlooking the Atlanta skyline. The attorney asked if I had questions. I had one. If a family member attempts to claim access to these funds, what happens? She looked at me over her glasses. Nothing. That's the entire point. 2 months before the IPO, Savannah texted me, first time in 9 years. The message arrived at 2:17 p.m. on a Thursday. "Hey, just thinking about you. How are the kids?" 6 words, 9 years. And how are the kids? As if she'd been asking all along. As if this was a continuation instead of a cold resurrection. I didn't reply for a week. I wanted to see if she'd follow up. She did. "I'm going to be in Atlanta for work next month. Would love to see you." Julian said it was my call. I agreed to meet her, not at our home, but at a busy cafe in Midtown. Public, neutral, time limited.
Savannah showed up 15 minutes late in a designer blazer and heels that cost more than my first car. She hugged me too long, told me I looked amazing 3 times in the first 10 minutes. Then she started asking questions. How big is your house? Do the kids go to private school? Which neighborhood are you in? Is Julian still running the company or has he stepped back? How many employees now? Have you raised more money recently? 32 questions. I counted every single one. And not one was, I'm sorry. Halfway through our lattes, I caught something in the reflection of the cafe window. Savannah had angled her phone toward the parking lot. She was photographing my car, a white Tesla, cataloging evidence, building a report. I let her finish her latte. I answered her questions with the same polite vagueness you use with a telemarketer. When we hugged goodbye, she held on too long, like she was measuring something. I drove home and opened the binder. Item 28. Savannah reconnaissance visit. Date. Red pen. Notes. 32 information-seeking questions. Photographed vehicle. 0 apology. 0 acknowledgement of 9 years of estrangement. Then I called Patricia Moreno for the second time. They're coming, I said. My mother. Probably within weeks of the IPO. She'll have a list of demands. Patricia asked what kind of demands. I told her about the group chat, the screenshots, Savannah's instructions to layer it and make it look like family investment. Patricia was quiet. Then she said, "You have documentation?" "I have a binder." "How thorough?" 28 items, dated, sourced, 9 years of records. Another pause. "Evelyn, you don't need a lawyer for this. You needed me for the legal architecture, the trusts, the estate separation. That's done. What you're facing now isn't a legal confrontation, it's a personal one. And for that, you just need to decide what you're willing to say." She was right. This wasn't about lawyers. This was about a woman who showed up at my door because the numbers changed, and whether I was going to let her rewrite 9 years of cruelty into a fairy tale about a misunderstanding. Regular Core went public on a Wednesday in October. Julian and I stood on the floor of the NASDAQ in New York City, him in a charcoal suit, me in a navy blazer, and watched our stock open at $18 a share. By noon, it hit 20. By close, 22. Market capitalization, $440 million. Julian and I held 10%. Net worth on paper, $44 million. I stared at that number and felt nothing. It didn't seem real. It looked like a spreadsheet error. Too many zeros. Check the formula. But the formula was correct. That was literally my job. TechCrunch ran a feature. Forbes requested a comment. Bloomberg splashed Julian's face in a sidebar. A local Atlanta news station did a 3-minute segment. Georgia couple's fintech startup hits NASDAQ. They showed our company photo. 2 founders, side by side. Equals. We celebrated that night with room service sushi in a hotel overlooking Times Square. Lila and Jackson were back home with Cora. Julian fell asleep on the couch at 9:15, still in his suit jacket. I stayed awake, not because of the IPO, because of what I knew was coming next. I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from area code 706, Sutton Creek, Georgia. 3 from a number I didn't recognize. 1 from Frank Walsh, 1 from Loretta Walsh. I didn't call back. I set the phone face down and stared at the ceiling. 9 years, $44 million. And suddenly, Evelyn Walsh was worth knowing again. Dad's voicemail arrived the next morning while I was brushing my teeth. His voice sounded thinner than I remembered. Older. The cadence was still slow and careful. A man who measured words the way he used to measure lumber. But something underneath had cracked open. "Baby girl, I saw you on the news. You and Julian on that stock exchange floor. I didn't know what to say, so I'm calling. I'm proud of you. I've always been..." A long pause. Breathing. "Your mother wants to talk. She's got things she wants to discuss. Please call her back when you can. I love you, Evelyn." I pleaded 3 times. Baby girl. He hadn't called me that since I was 14. And I'm proud of you. 4 words I had waited a decade to hear. But then I rewound, listened again, listened to the architecture of it. He called after the IPO, not after my wedding, not after the twins were born, not after any of the 7 birthday cards or the ultrasound photos or the birth announcements. After the IPO. He was proud of me on paper. He'd always been proud of me on paper. What he had never been was brave enough to pick up the phone when there weren't 44 million reasons to dial. I saved the voicemail. I didn't file it in the binder. It was too sad for the binder. Instead, I sat on the cold tile of that hotel bathroom floor and let myself feel all of it for exactly 4 minutes. Then I got up, packed my suitcase. We had a flight to catch. Loretta's text arrived 2 days after we got home. It was long, carefully composed. No typos, no casual abbreviations. This was a draft. She had written it, revised it, probably rehearsed it in front of the mirror. Evelyn, I know we have lost time. I think about you and the children every day. Life is short, and I have learned that some things matter more than the differences that divide us. I would like to talk about the future, about the children, about what it means to be a family. There are things that families should share. I believe we can find a way forward if you are willing. 63 words, I counted, and not one was sorry. Not one was, I was wrong. Not one acknowledged that she had disowned her daughter for marrying a man whose skin was a different shade than hers. Not one mentioned the returned cards, the ignored grandchildren, the 9 years of weaponized silence. The differences that divide us, as if our estrangement was a polite philosophical disagreement. Not a mother telling her daughter, he is not one of us. Not 7 years of birthday cards returned unopened. I screenshotted the message, printed it, opened the binder. Item 29, first text from Loretta Walsh in 9 years. 63 words, 0 apologies. Red pen, dated. 2 days later, Rachel called. Rachel is telling everyone in town that she visited you in Atlanta. She's saying you live in a mansion, her word. She's telling people Julian struck gold. You drive a Tesla, the kids go to private school. I leaned against my kitchen counter. Half of that is wrong. It's not a mansion, and the kids go to public school. Evelyn, that's not the point. Your mom is planning a trip. Savannah told Linda at the salon that Loretta is flying to Atlanta next week. She's packing a suitcase. I closed my eyes. I know. How? Because Savannah counted every room in our cafe meeting and photographed my car. Silence. Then, what are you going to do? I'm going to open the door. You're going to let her in? I'm going to let her talk, and then I'm going to show her what I've been keeping in the bottom drawer of my desk for 9 years. Loretta Walsh arrived at my front door on a Tuesday morning at 10:14. I know the exact time because I was standing at the kitchen window drying a coffee mug, watching the Uber pull up to the curb. She stepped out slowly. Beige cardigan, black slacks, the same pearl earrings she'd worn to church every Sunday since I was a little girl. She had a carry-on suitcase with scuffed corners and a folded piece of paper clutched in her right hand. She stood on the sidewalk for a full 30 seconds, scanning my house. The Craftsman columns, the porch swing, the garden beds Julian had planted that spring. She assessed it the way an appraiser assesses property she intends to acquire. Then she walked up the path. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. We stood 3 feet apart. She looked older, more gray at the temples, deeper lines around her mouth. Her eyes, the same shade of green as mine, were already wet. Evelyn. Mom. 4 seconds of silence. I came to talk about the children's future. Not, I came because I missed you. Not, I came because I was wrong. Not even, I came because I love you. I came to talk about the children's future. The children she had never met. The children whose photos she returned in sealed envelopes. The children Savannah said didn't have real grandparents. I looked at her suitcase, looked at the folded paper. Come in. I didn't lead her to the living room. I led her to the kitchen. My kitchen has a big oak table. It has good natural light. It has a refrigerator covered in Cora's photo and the twins' artwork, and a world map where Leela marks every country she wants to visit someday. The kitchen is where truth lives in this house, and truth was exactly what we were about to have. She sat down. I poured 2 glasses of water. No coffee. Coffee is for people who are staying. Her eyes drifted to the fridge, to Cora's photo. Grandma Cora holding Leela and Jackson on her lap at Tybee Island, all 3 of them laughing into the camera. Loretta stared at that photo for 5 full seconds. Something flickered across her face. Guilt? Jealousy? I couldn't tell. Then she unfolded the paper. Her handwriting, blue ink, 5 bullet points. Each one neat, precise, the product of what must have been hours of cold calculation. Retirement fund for your father and me, $500,000. I said nothing. College fund for Savannah's son Thomas, $200,000. Nothing. Medical expenses, your father's knee replacement, $45,000. Nothing. Mortgage payoff on the family home, $180,000. Nothing. Monthly support stipend, $3,000. She folded the paper, placed it on the table between us, looked at me with those damp green eyes. This is what families do, Evelyn. Your father worked his entire life. He sacrificed for you, for both of you. It's time to give back. $925,000, itemized, calculated, presented like an invoice. Not once did she say the word sorry. I picked up her list, read each line one more time, folded it, set it down, then I stood and walked to my office. Bottom drawer of the desk, beneath the tax folders, behind the old insurance documents. I pulled out the binder. Navy blue, 3-ring, heavy with 9 years of truth. I carried it back to the kitchen and set it on the table directly beside her folded list. 2 documents. Hers, 1 page, 5 bullets, $925,000. Mine, 29 items, 9 years, 0 apologies received. She stared at the binder. What is that? You brought a list, Mom. I brought one too. I sat down, placed my palms flat on the table. You brought a list, Mom. She took in the thickness of it, nearly 3 inches of tabs and documents and printed screenshots and returned birthday cards still in their original envelopes. I don't understand. You will. I opened to tab 1, year 1, and I began to read. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't perform. I read the way I deliver quarterly reports to a board of directors. Factual, methodical, item by item. 9 years of receipts. Dated, documented. Every returned card. Every ignored voicemail. Every screenshot. Every piece of irrefutable proof that Loretta Walsh had systematically erased her firstborn daughter from her family. Not because of anything I did wrong, but because of who I dared to love. Item 1, birthday card. Mailed September 12th, 2017. Returned to sender September 23rd, 2017. I placed the envelope on the table. Red stamp blazing. Still sealed. Item 2, wedding photo. Mailed June 14, 2017. Returned June 25th, 2017. Another envelope. Item 3, Christmas card. Mailed December 8th, 2017. Returned December 21st, 2017. I laid them out like evidence in a criminal trial. Chronological, unemotional, incontestable. Loretta's mouth opened and closed. She stared at the growing row of white envelopes, each one a door I had tried to open, each one slammed shut by her hand. These are the birthday cards I sent you. Every year, for 9 years. Every single one came back. Evelyn, I'm not finished. I moved to tab 2, year 2. Item 4, voicemail left on your phone, January 7th, 2018. Duration 47 seconds. Never returned. Item 5, text message from Dad, February 12th, 2018. 4 words. Your mother needs time. I laid the printout on the table. It's been 9 years, Mom. How much more time did you need? The tears came. I expected them. She pressed both hands to her face and produced that controlled, theatrical cry I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. The one she used when she wanted sympathy without surrendering an inch of dignity. I was hurt, Evelyn. You chose him over us. You left this family. I didn't leave. You told me not to come back. I was upset. People say things when they're upset. I flipped to tab 4. Year 4. Item 16. Text message from Savannah to a mutual friend forwarded to me. March 9th, 2021. I read it aloud, slowly, letting every word land like a hammer. Her children don't have real grandparents. That's what she chose. Savannah flinched. Savannah didn't mean, this is Savannah's exact text, verbatim. I flipped to the final tab and pulled out the 7 pages of screenshots. Item 26. Family group chat screenshots provided by a mutual friend who was accidentally added to the conversation. October 4th, 2025. I read Savannah's words. Make a list. Be specific what we need. She's a numbers person. She'll respond to numbers. Then I read Loretta's. She has more money than this entire town. She can afford to help her family. The tears vanished. Loretta's face hardened into something I recognized immediately. The same expression she wore when Savannah shattered her wedding china and blamed the dog. Not guilt. Anger. You had no right to read that. I met her eyes. Steady. Unblinking. You had no right to return my children's photographs. Silence swallowed the kitchen. I reached for a very specific envelope. Tab 5, Year 7. It looked almost identical to the others. White paper, red stamp, but the flap was creased. Someone had cut the glue and resealed it with a strip of clear tape. I held it up between us. Item 23. Birthday card, Year 7. Inside this card was a photograph of Lila and Jackson at their school's fall festival. On the back, I wrote, "They ask about you sometimes. I tell them you live far away." I set the envelope on the table. This card was opened. Someone took out the photo, someone held my children's faces in their hands, and then someone sealed it back up and sent it away. Loretta's jaw locked. Who opened it, Mom? Silence. Dad opened it. He wanted to keep it, and you forced him to send it back. Her hands were pressed flat against the tabletop. She stared at the envelope, at that thin strip of tape, and whispered so quietly I almost didn't catch it. I was afraid. I waited. If I let him keep it, if I let any of it in, I would have had to admit I was wrong, that I threw away 9 years for nothing, that I pushed away my own grandchildren because I was too proud to— She stopped, swallowed. For one single second, I saw something real behind her eyes. Not theater, not manipulation. Fear. The kind of fear that lives beneath decades of anger and doesn't know how to surface any other way. Then it vanished. Her chin lifted, her spine straightened. But you made your choice, Evelyn. You left us. The moment of honesty evaporated, gone before I could hold it. I placed her list of demands on the left side of the table. I placed my binder on the right, side by side. Your list, $925,000, 9 bullet points, 0 apologies. I tapped the navy blue cover. My list, 29 items, 9 years of silence, 9 years of returned birthday cards, 9 years of ignored grandchildren, 9 years of a daughter you erased because she married a man you refused to accept. I never erased. You told the church I abandoned the family. You told Savannah to tell people my children didn't have real grandparents. You tracked my husband's company for months and showed up at my door with an itemized invoice. I closed the binder. The 3 rings clicked shut like a cell door. You didn't come here because you missed me, Mom. You came here because the numbers changed. Loretta stood. The chair scraped against the tile. After everything we did for you, the food, the clothes, the school supplies, this is how you repay us? You raised me. That's not a debt. That's what parents do. We gave you everything. You gave me a card that said, "Come home soon," and then you told me never to come back. She had no answer. I watched her mental Rolodex spin, guilt, manipulation, emotional leverage, and come empty. You said he wasn't one of us, but for 9 years, his mother was the only grandmother my children ever knew. The words hung in the air like smoke. She felt them. I watched them land. She had nothing left. The garage door rumbled. Julian walked into the kitchen, keys in one hand, laptop bag over his shoulder. He saw Loretta. He saw the binder. He saw my face. He didn't say a word. He set his bag on the counter, walked over, placed his hand on my shoulder, and sat down beside me. No dramatic entrance, no confrontation. Just a man sitting next to his wife because she needed him. Loretta stared at Julian, the man she had refused to accept 9 years ago. He wore a plain flannel shirt and running shoes, and a watch that cost less than her pearl earrings. Nothing about him announced $44 million. He was just a man, a good man, a devoted father, a faithful husband. And he was right here, his hand on my shoulder, speaking volumes without opening his mouth. She understood. I didn't need the Walsh family. I had already built my own.
I spoke quietly, the way you deliver a final figure on a balance sheet. Factual, complete, no revisions pending. I will not give you money, Mom. She opened her mouth. Not because I can't afford it, because the second I hand you a check, you'll convince yourself you were right to stay away until it became profitable to return. You'll tell yourself, and you'll tell Savannah, that this is just what families do, that the silence was a misunderstanding, that 9 years were just a rough patch. I picked up her list and held it out. They weren't a rough patch. They were a choice. Your choice. Every returned card, every ignored voicemail, every photo of your grandchildren that you looked at and sent back. She didn't take her list. If you want to know your grandchildren, truly know them, not as line items on a financial plan, that starts with an apology. Not to me, to them. And it doesn't start today. It starts when you're ready to actually mean it. Loretta took her list. She picked up her carry-on. She walked to the front door. She paused, turned, opened her mouth, closed it, walked out. The door clicked shut. Not a slam, a click. The sound of someone leaving who understood she had lost something no amount of money could ever buy back. 2 weeks passed in quiet. Julian and I didn't discuss Loretta much. There wasn't much left to say. She had come armed with a list. I had answered with a binder. She'd left without apologizing. The math was settled. The twins never knew she was here. They were at school both times. I wanted it that way. They'll learn about Loretta Walsh when they're old enough to understand that some people only see you when the lighting is favorable. Then Dad called. Tuesday morning, 9:14 a.m. I was reviewing vendor contracts. "Evelyn, your mother told me what happened." I waited. "I should have opened that door for you 9 years ago. I should have picked up the phone. I should have driven to Atlanta the day the twins were born. I should have done a lot of things." His voice splintered. "I'm sorry. Not because of the money. I don't want your money. I want to know my grandchildren. And I want to know if you'll let me try." 17 seconds of silence. I counted. "I believe you, Dad, but belief and trust are two different things. We go slow. Phone calls every 2 weeks. No visits yet. No money, just talking. That's more than I deserve. It's exactly what you deserve. No more, no less." We hung up. I went back to my contracts. Savannah texted once. One line. "You could have just helped." I didn't reply. Some messages are their own answer. Loretta never called, never texted, never wrote. The silence returned, but this time it was hers. The binder sits in my bottom drawer. 29 items, 9 years. I haven't added a 30th. I hope I never have to. Here's what 9 years of silence taught me. Family isn't about who shares your last name. Family isn't about who shows up when your net worth changes.
Family is the people who show up when your world is small and your garage is freezing and your newborn twins need a grandmother. Family is the woman who drives 6 hours from Atlanta every month and crochets blankets and teaches your son how to make perfect grilled cheese. That's family. And it was never about the money. It was about showing up. That's my story. 9 years, 29 items, 1 navy blue binder. If this resonated with you, if you've ever had someone walk away and come running back when the numbers changed, drop a comment. I read them all. Hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.